Oh, what's up, everybody? Welcome. It's an Overreaction Monday here on Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Anwar Richardson, and we're glad to be with you for a little while. Do us a solid like, comment, subscribe to the page. Like, help us on our journey to 250,000. It's just cool. Anwar, I had kids over at the house this weekend. They kind of freaked out over the play button. That they were like, I've never seen one of these in person before.
Oh, yeah.
They were like, I've never met a YouTuber before. I'm just like, oh God. Like, I felt my street cred with the 12-year-old market go up while my own street cred and self-worth went down at the same time. But help us get to 250. I promise I will use that when I am trying to be cool with the 12-year-olds at the next Ketchum household event.
My kids, I don't think my kids know what I do from an Orange Bloods writing perspective at all. But they do know every day I do. How did the show go? How did this go? Like, I think I told you a couple of weeks ago, I came out in the middle of the night. I fell asleep. It was like 2 a.m. They were watching you on the show. I'm like, what? 2 o'clock in the morning? You guys are watching? What the hell? We're popular amongst our kids.
Hey, you know what? That is true. That much is true. We'll see if we're popular with our fans in the Specs chat. And real quick, shout out to our guys, rogueshop.com, the title sponsor of the show. Use that promo code Orange Bloods. I got to be honest, the best way to get through a sleepover with 8 12-year-olds, Rogue Shop in every capacity. Not for them, for me.
Good distinction, Catch. But to make sure we ain't get what kind of party we got going on. Good distinction.
The kids made it way past midnight, more so than I did. At one point, I was like, all right, nobody get pregnant. I'm going to bed. No, rogueshop.com. Just go to the website. They've always got specials. They've always got things to check out. Pain, sleeplessness, anxiety, the full gamut of things you might be dealing with. They might be able to help you out with, or your pets, or your parents, or not your kids. Anwar. We both had ideas for the Monday Overreaction show, the Overreaction Monday show. I don't know why after all these years I still say it both ways. You were keenly into the idea and the discussion of let's go through these things that Texas is working their way through this spring as they pick back up practice on Tuesday, having some sort of modified scrimmage on Saturday. You can read the details over at orangebloods.com. Nothing too crazy took place on Saturday. Yeah. I had like an OU-centric topic that I just might not be able to make it through the week on, but I have come around to this idea of, all right, well, let's just dive headfirst. Not so much into the fun. That was my idea. I wanted to do the OU show where we just clowned on the Sooners for a little ways because I don't think they've beaten, like they haven't beaten Texas in any of the big male major sports or whatever. They're like, I don't know. It's just not good. They're in a bad place. I'm going to do that later. I can just feel it in my bones. How big is this Arch thing for you? If we're going to go through all of the problems that Texas is dealing with this spring, I have tried not to be overreaction guy on this. I wrote about it. You even responded to it. So are you ready to go on record with some sort of declaration of whatever this is with Arch? Because I think if he's not back by tomorrow, there's a good chance that this week will go by and we won't see him in full pads going full pelt. Is there a mark of like decertification for you where if it's not by now, it's officially a problem?
If I don't see it this week, him being a full participant, Catch, it's a problem for me. Okay. And what I'm going to say, it's Overreaction Monday, so let's just let the show be what it is.
This is the safe space. This is the place to do it.
Safe space, right? There's a couple of things. One, I don't love a world where the starting quarterback is not working with his starting receivers, right? I mean, and let me preface this by saying, I don't think Sark is doing anything wrong. I don't think the medical staff is doing anything wrong. This is not on them. This is my general concern. I
don't think there's anything from a scheduling standpoint they could have done. Sark said we're bumping into finals if we try to buy ourselves even a week more time. So like they're doing what they can.
So I get that, and I'm fine with that. That doesn't alleviate my concern when I look at Arch is not out there at this moment, working with uh, he's not working with his guys. I don't have Trevor Gooseby out there at this moment. Seymour is not out there, right? He just got cleared, but I don't think he's on campus or anything like that. So you've got two potential starting offensive linemen who ain't even practicing right now. You've got Emmett Mosley, who's not participating in practice at this moment. I've already mentioned a lot. You had Khalid Lockett, who was supposed to be a guy getting reps with some of the absences. He's not participating. He's done for the spring. I got Ryan Wingo trying to work his way back, but he still is not 100%, and they're going to be cautious with him. You don't need him falling on a wrist, during a practice. And so when I start looking at key components, I'm like, I'm just not willing to do what was done last year. And what was done last year, it was, hey, this offensive line, I don't really know about this. And everyone's like, oh, that's going to be all right. It'll work itself out. And then it's like, hey, these receivers, they're kind of unproven, don't you think? Like Parker, Ryan, like, do we really know what we have with these guys? Why did they go away from the transfer portal this time? It's like, oh, that's going to be all right. It's like, hey, Arch Manning might have like a little bit of a learning curve here. It's like, he's better than Quinn. And then we got into the season, and it was like, oh shit, wait, those were valid concerns. I feel like we're doing that thing this year as relates to Arch and spring, where it's just like, everything's going to be okay in the summer and the fall. And I'm just not willing to go on that bridge at this moment. I'm not willing to say it's a panic thing, but I can't say I love it right now,
Well, it's funny because I've done a version of this show, it feels like a half dozen times in the last 6 weeks, because the conversation is, it's an impossible thing to quantify. In fact, I've probably been the more nervous Nelly of the two. This one for the kids. In that it's just that the bar for this team is the national championship. I mean, it is an insanely high bar. And I'm reminded of just watching the Duke-UConn basketball game last night, where sometimes some dude just hits from the logo and you haven't done anything wrong and you lose and your season is over and you were on the cusp of one thing and now your season's remembered for something completely different. And, I think we saw from the football team a year ago that I don't think they would have been a handful in a playoff. But they had 2 losses by the end of September, and it was problematic. So this team just doesn't have a lot of margin of error. We've learned that in the season that just took place. The bar is so high. They didn't make the playoffs last year, and it will feel like a failure if they don't get to the Final Four at a minimum. But even that feels like, well, Quinn did that a couple of times. So what has been gained? It's not how you want to approach the bar being so insanely high. You don't want your quarterback and his offensive line and his new running backs and his new receivers and his new tight end. You don't want them to just not have full padded workouts ever, or at a minimum. And I know he's getting work in some throwing drills, and I know they'll do, and I know that this is the official mantra behind the scenes for everybody that you and I talk to, right? Hey, they got all that time in the summer. They'll work it out. But it's not like it's just an Arch or a Cam Coleman and an Emmett Mosley and a Jermaine Bishop. And it's not just those guys. It is the entire left side of that offensive line that isn't practicing at all right now. And then it's the running game that is trying to find its way with 3 new running backs behind an offensive line that it won't be playing behind when they play Ohio State in the second week of the season. It's just a lot of little things. It felt like it took half the season last year for Arch and Emmett Mosley to figure it out. And it felt like it took them 12 games to figure out Jack injuries, or 11 games. It was really at the tail end of the season. It felt like they stopped asking him to be Gunnar Helm and just let him be what he is. And it started to work. Ask the Aggies. They're like, wait a minute, this guy didn't do anything all season long, and now he's doing this? I don't want us to get to the 12th week of the season this year and it be like, Arch and Masunis have finally started to click. This offense, the schedule's too hard. This is not the year. The expectations are not low enough where it's like, oh, they're missing the entire spring. It'll be fine. It's not optimal. And while neither one of us know how to quantify it, it's not optimal. And this is a season where the bar is almost everything has to be right in order for everything to be optimal in order to accomplish the goal that doesn't have Steve Sarkisian potentially on a little bit of a mini hot seat coming into 2027 because the Arch Manning era and the Colin Simmons era and the 1 year of Cam Coleman didn't produce the things that I think behind the scenes they expect to be produced.
Can I give you a take that you I don't know how people are going to receive this, but I'm going to say it anyway because I just have to keep it real. I'm not convinced, like everybody else, that Arch is so good that he does not need spring ball. If you go back,
is that a hot take?
Well, let me explain it, and then we'll see where we're at.
Okay.
If you go back to, I looked it up as you were talking. There were 9 games last season where Arch's quarterback rating was 143 or less. In 9 games last season, Catch. There were 2 games where his quarterback rating was in the 80s. He was 87.5 versus UTEP. He was 85.5 versus Kentucky. The 4 games that he had the highest quarterback rating, Sam Houston State, 256.5, Arkansas, 212.9, Vanderbilt, 189.2, and San Jose State, 183.3. And those were the standout games for team. Only one of those teams was good, which is Vanderbilt. Okay? Everybody else, you can shoulder shrug. You don't give a damn about, right? So there's a part of me that I'm not even willing at this moment to just gloss over and just act like, well, Michigan happened, so everything's good. Like, we still saw a quarterback who struggled a lot of last season. Like he did. Like I think we even in that Texas A&M game, Catch, his quarterback rating was 111.5. Wasn't like he was lighting it up. Like everybody now, Georgia, everybody shit the bed against Georgia, right? So I'm not even that's not even an Arch thing. I'm not even gonna put that on him. But I just think there is a thing where we're just assuming everything's just going to work out. And I would say that there is a part that, and someone can say, Sam, can say the offensive line was buns, but I can tell you this much: if the Michigan Arch plays against Ohio State, it probably is a win, right? It is, even with that offensive line, which by the way only gave up 1 sack against Ohio State, ironically, right? So for me, I can't take for granted that Arch missing reps in the spring is no big deal based off of how he struggled for a lot of last season.
No, look, that's completely fair. And I think, the Michigan game is kind of its own season. It's the only game for a month. It's just different than, and so I look at the last 4 weeks of the season and 2 of the last 4 games. Statistically, the A&M and the Georgia game, they weren't good. One of the real interesting things about Arch, and it's not just me, so it's not like just a self-exploration that needs to take place here, but statistically, like he was very Jag-ish a year ago. The eyeball test with Arch is the thing that he does really good with, really well. It's even going back to the Michigan game, there were 3 or 4 balls that he threw that were NFL throws that substandard players just didn't hang on to. And there was a lot of that, I thought, throughout the season where your eyeballs could see him do 4 or 5 things in a game that would make you go, oh, man, when this guy puts the pieces together, he's got a chance to be the guy that we all have thought he might become. He does that in the Michigan game, but it doesn't cloud the fact that it didn't consistently happen last year. And look, I really give Arch not a free pass because, he's very Jag-ish in terms of his statistics from a year ago. And I can't be Mr. Data guy and Mr. Stat guy and use them against Quinn. And then when Arch has very similar numbers, not point out, that's not good enough. Arch was not good enough last year. Now, was he working with lesser wide receivers and lesser running backs and lesser tight ends and a lesser offensive line than just Quinn the year before? Yes. And I think the big mistake that we talked about loudly last year, and yet we never listened to ourselves, was when it was like receivers are worse, running backs are worse, tight ends are worse, offensive line worse, but Arch is the tide that lifts all boats.
Yep.
We talked about that's a hell of a thing to take for granted, but it didn't slow me down when it came to making a final prediction for this team. And I think Arch by the end of the year will be better than Quinn was, certainly, and that will mean everything. And it didn't. They didn't get to a stage where it mattered. And maybe they'd have been a dangerous team had they been in the tournament. I think they might have won a game or two, and then let's see where they're at from there. If the Arch Manning of the Michigan game shows up at all, they might be playing with cooking with grease at that point. All of the reasons that you outlined are the reasons why the spring is important right now. He hasn't been good enough. If Julian Sayin misses the spring for Ohio State, you're able to look back and go, well, he was like a 175 passing efficiency guy all of last season. He's got all of the guys out, he's got Jeremiah Smith coming back. He's got his main guy. He could afford to miss the reps. I don't agree. And I think the offense as a whole has just not been good enough. So weirdly, if Arch were playing, but it was just Seymour and Gooseby who were missing, I would go, man, I'm sorry, but I got some real reservations about the offensive line, given what it meant a year ago. We can't just assume that a guy coming off of a shoulder surgery and a guy that's not here and having not played, any major college football the last couple of years outside of a game or two while at Western Kentucky. I think they're going to be better. I think they're going to be good, but I want to see those guys there. But that it's every position on the team with so much turnover, and they have the spring for a reason. Everybody does it. Nobody's ever punted on these 15 workouts in college football because they thought, there's more damage that can be done than good. No, they're all really important. And I think maybe, Anwar, the reason why people aren't screaming fire in a crowded theater is they're choosing, at least up until now, right? It does feel a little different going into this week. It would be nice to see Arch get back, have 3 full weeks of workouts where it's like, okay, it was fine. So he missed the first 6. Most of those weren't even in pads. No big deal. I think we've looked at all of the young guys, right? Whether it's been KJ Lacey and Dia Bell, and we're like, oh, those guys are getting better reps than they would have otherwise got. That's not a bad thing. And you're like, well, Jermaine Bishop's getting some reps, and, Khalil Lockett at one point before he got hurt was working with the ones, and you thought, well, maybe the 2 offensive linemen, this is how Jordan Coleman and or Jaden Chapman get good. So you just talk yourself into this has a chance to have an unintentionally good set of results occur because it happened. But That's not as important as your main guys getting, you know what I mean? Like, that's a good
Yeah.
thing. Those are good things, but it's not more important than your starting quarterback getting as much run as he needs with all of the position groups so that they're not still figuring things out when Ohio State comes to town the second week of September. And they will be. There's no way. I had somebody on Orange Blood today predict that Texas was going to win that game by scoring 38 points. And I was like, no, that what? I love this team's talent. I love this team at the end of the season. But there's some real, like, honest to goodness football stuff that coaches would never take for granted. You would never hear a coach say, I think it's okay if my guys just show up on the 1st of September and they're ready to go. That is not how they think. It's not how they operate. So while they're as cool as the other side of the pillow right now and talking about Arch and all of this stuff, behind the scenes, they're like, hey, man, we got to get these dudes out there at some point. Or, you know, who wants to say the quiet part out loud, which is national championships aren't typically won when people can't practice.
Oh, you still go? Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
good. I ended it there.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you were done. I mean, yes. Like, that's why I think that point is the most valid. If people said we don't need spring ball, then I would say, well, what the hell? Who cares, right? But they're doing it for a reason, right? They've put some label, some sort of semblance of importance on these practices, and I just think that, again, to no one's fault, but it's like, okay, like, what does it look like? If you've got Cam Coleman out there, I need Arch to have that chemistry with Cam Coleman. I don't need KJ Lacey to have that, or Dia Bell. I mean, that's cool. But if those guys are playing significant minutes in this season, well, that's a problem. That's a huge problem. Like, something bad happened.
But if that happened, if like KJ Lacey had to start 3 games this year because Arch got an ankle sprain or something, and then he played well, we'd look back and go, yes, that would have never happened had he not had those critical practices in the spring. So, like I said, it is a weird set of circumstances this year that I think people have just chosen to be more optimistic about this really not positive situation as possible. But I'm here for, at some point, because I don't know that tomorrow's the day. But I don't know that we've officially reached the point where a week ago I was like, it's cool. I'm not tripping if he's not back by Tuesday. Well, if he's not back this Tuesday, does that mean he's out for the whole week? And then he's only got 2 weeks left, which is only 5 practices before you get to the spring game? Or would you even want to play him in the spring game if he's only had a few workouts? Like, what's the risk versus return on that potentially? And probably not a huge deal because, as you pointed out in our team's chat this weekend, it's less a spring game than it is a spring practice that folks can show up to. Yeah. So, he's not going to be at risk in any kind of a way. Look, man, what do you think the odds are that he shows up tomorrow and gets a full practice?
So I don't know. And that's a good question. And here becomes the thing, Catch. And this is where playing it safe makes sense. You can't touch a quarterback, right? We all understand that. But if Colin Simmons comes off the edge and knocks an MF or back into Arch and then lands on that ankle, well, that's a problem. And that's a realistic scenario considering how good we've heard Colin Simmons has been, right? Sark was the guy saying, like, this guy could pretty much pop off all the time during practice, and we almost have to figure out ways to hold him back. So they feel like it's 100% ready for that. He's throwing. My logic would say, okay, this would probably be the week that you get him back in this Tuesday. I would put that as a good percentage. Like, okay, he's throwing a little bit. You guys will let him do a little bit more. But I don't have a percentage for that because if you tell me on Tuesday he ain't practicing, I'm like, well, he's probably not going to practice this week. He's just gonna continue throwing. Like you said, at that point, you got 2 weeks left, and
That's my first practice of the week theory that doctors run on the beginning and end of weeks. And so if you're not ready to go at the beginning of the week, it just seems weird that like suddenly on Thursday something's different than Tuesday. Like, I don't know. So tomorrow I will be watching to see.
Yeah,
Look, everybody might have missed it. One of the things that happened on Saturday is that the school did a little bit of like social media propaganda. They put out pictures of Arch and Ryan Wingo and kind of intimated that they were back, or I don't know. I can't say what they intimated. It was such a thirst trapping, non-specific post that whoever did it could go, who, me? What did I do? But given the show that we're doing today, given that this is starting to be a growing topic of should we be concerned, I felt like when they did that, I turned into Anwar, honestly. I went into conspiracy guy mode, and then weirdly, Anwar kind of turned into me and was like, I don't know if I have time for your conspiracy on a Saturday. But given that neither guy actually came back and worked out fully in that practice, I wonder what the motivation for that was. And it could have just been, we wanted to get some social media engagement. Cool. But they haven't done that every practice. Something about it made me feel like, I don't know. Once I heard that Arch was still doing the same old stuff that we've seen Arch do all camp long, and he wasn't more involved at all, my odds on him practicing tomorrow went down. I thought this is a preemptive strike of sorts because on Tuesday he won't be back, and it's going to start to be a little bit of a story that we're now into April, and the starting quarterback, who's the presumptive number one pick in next year's draft, still isn't all the way back from this surgery. It just becomes more of a thing. You still think I'm out of the pocket here that was just a nothing social media post?
Yeah, because the thing is, it was Arch and Wingo, right? So both of those guys were there, right? So there is some sort of implication. By the way, are you frozen? Or is something wrong with my internet? Because am I tripping? Is Catch froze? Oh, there you are. Okay, you're back. Okay. I was like, it was that Han Solo thing for a second. That's okay. You can switch us around though.
No, I was just saying. I made a big deal, not a big deal. I made a deal out of the post on Saturday on social media. I think it might be connected to whatever has or hasn't happened. Are you buying my conspiracy theory from Saturday, or do you feel like
the only reason I'll buy it a little is because what I was trying to say was that it was Arch and Wingo. So they had two photos, and both of those guys were injured guys. It gave the implication that both of those guys were kind of back, right? And now, I don't go as far as thinking Sark had this idea. He then communicated it to Bianco, who then went to Derek. I think Ochoa is his last name. Is like, we need you to do this. I think there was a little bit of, oh, they're back at practice. I need some photos. It's a Saturday, so on and so forth. I don't think there was a huge brain trust meeting, but who put it out, there was this thought like, we want to show you that these guys are back at practice without actually giving the details. And that's the thing. I was like, well, that looks like the first. I've been to enough practices. I'm like, that looks like the first couple of minutes of practice. I ain't seeing them actually doing it against anybody. I don't see no teammates around. I don't see a line of scrimmage anywhere. So I ain't sold on that one. So there's a little thing, but but we can't have. This is what I'm saying. It is. It was like last year. You and I have talked about this, and I think both of our heads we both have done double takes. when towards the end of last season, we started hearing from the staff, we had a pretty young team out there. You're like, wait. Yeah, but y'all said you were okay. Like we knew that, and I don't want. And what I'm fearful of, Kedge, is that we're going to get into the season and something's going to happen. They're going to say, "Hey, all our guys were like missing in spring, right? Like, what do you expect?" I'm like, wait, no. If we're going to do that, let's put it all on the record now, and let's just not act like it's nothing, and then something happens, you get tripped up. You're like, because people looked at us at some point, Kedge, last year, and it's like, what the problem is with this team? The media. The media is the one that put all this pressure on the team. The media had this team ranked number one. Why the hell would the media do something like that? Why did you guys, you media guys, you Orange Bloods guys, like you guys put more pressure on this team? Like you guys had this. So there wasn't a coaches poll that had them number one either, right? I guess, right? So, and no one shied away from the expectations.
Well, that's the main thing. At no point did Sark ever once. We actually talked quite a bit about. He was all gas with like the expectations. He was not running away from any of the we're going to Columbus, number one in the country. He did not intimate that was premature. His thought process was like, this is who we are now. Like we've had 2 seasons as a semifinalist. Like that, all of that is leading to who we're going to be and who we are now. And they just weren't yet. And I think here's the thing, they could go on the record now. We just don't live in a world anymore where that matters, really.
Yeah.
Like if Sark, it doesn't, I even brought this up like a couple of months ago, right? That Sark in November of last year, before the Vanderbilt game, said, we're a young team, and if we do it right, we're always going to be a young team. And I nearly fell out of my chair, like in real time when it happened. I was like, he doesn't mean that. Surely that he doesn't mean that they're going to be young all the time. And then we've seen him in a couple of months' time completely reverse course and kind of say something completely different and go into the portal. That was the same day when he was like, we'll never go into the portal and take like 30-something guys. And then kind of felt like they'd have taken 30 this year if they could. Maybe they could have. I don't know. They took 20. Like it was a massive step forward, and we're applauding them for that. We did a show last week where we talked about the general manager work and Brandon Harris and the work of the offseason. So I think that when they make adjustments, we applaud them. But in reality, they can say whatever they want to, and nobody holds them accountable. We just live in a world now, and it's probably started with our politics, but it just has feeded into everything where you can say something one week and come back the next week and say something completely different. And you can convince the world that, oh, that was just AI. That wasn't even a real video. I didn't actually say that. And it doesn't take very much to just get a whole bunch of people in a room to nod their heads and say yes to whatever will help them sleep better at night. So, if they don't get the job done in 2027, or 2026, fans will start going, well, in Tennessee, when they had their last man and they won the national championship with T. Martin the year after Arch left, maybe what Arch's real purpose was to build the program up to the point where then somebody better than him could take it it will happen. Like, you just tell yourself whatever you have to tell. Here's what we're doing. We're basically Neo in the Matrix. We are being told by Lawrence Fishburne that we can either take the pill and think about some hard stuff, or we can just close our eyes and in September, everything will be okay. I promise you the majority of our viewers just want to take the pill that allows them to wake up and everything's okay in September. And you and I are like, no, that's not how this thing works. We just learn this. And
you know what happens too, Catch, in that? What always happens in that scenario? They always tell us that, you guys were just a bunch of sunshine pumpers. That's all you guys did. That all you did, because everyone looks for someone to blame, right? And you and I become like the easiest targets, and it becomes, hey, you guys, or my favorite, you guys need better sources. That's my favorite one. Hey, you know what? Your source. And I'm like, oh, okay. So you're only going to listen to a source if everything they say is 100% true when they get to the season, right? Like they don't make mistakes and I can only tell you a person's thought process. I can't predict the future. It's like, catch.
There's some Duke reporters who yesterday, in the blink of an eye, went from having the best sources to having no sources. I mean, it's the thing that we watch that we just take for granted, that there's so many little coin flips that are out of your control that you need to land heads up for you to win and accomplish these things. And it is like, one of the ways to make sure some of those coin flips land on heads more so than tails is to get a lot of practice in and to be as familiar with each other as much as possible. And we don't often hear about national championship teams that met each other for the first time in June. It's a whole lot of like, hey, they got in there, all the romanticized stories of working out and the summer sweats and the things that happened in the spring. Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Anything unquarterback related that you also think, let me go ahead and get it out on the record right now? And also, is there one that's a little bit of a nervous, maybe concern that you actually aren't as worried about? Like, so if Arch is in its own separate category, in part because it touches so many things, is there one thing you think we haven't talked about that we need to before we go, and one thing you're just not tripping over?
Well, I mean, the offensive line will always be a concern until it's not for me. Like it just is what it is. Like I feel like as relates to the offensive line, we're doing that thing now, and I don't mean we, but in the general, like, well, I know they missed out on a bunch of guys, but they got Siani, right? They've got that. Seymour's cleared. Baker's on it. Trevor will be back. Like, and it's like, well, I can't ignore that. Like, to your point, the left side of that line is not practicing at this moment. And you, who as a guy who played that position, there is something to be said about that camaraderie of knowing, hey, it's not as simple as blocking when it comes to the offensive line, right? It's like I have to know when I can help a guy and then get back to my guy, right? And there's a lot of things, and I got to know when he needs help and when he doesn't need help. Those little things, and Trevor's got to know, like Gooseby, he's got to know, okay, Seymour's good, and I can just focus in on my guy, or I might have to bump this guy and then get back, right? There's just little nuances there, right? So of course, that's always going to be a concern until it's not. Everything else, I feel like everything else from a defensive side. Now, if you want to talk positives, I don't really have any concerns from a defensive perspective at this moment. I feel like everything we've heard over there is pretty good. I mean, you might want to say there's a little thing as relates to the linebackers, but outside of that, from a defensive perspective, even some of the guys who are injured, maybe you could say safety, but I think Phil Simay is working his way back in. I just feel like they got a bunch of dudes over there. I feel good about the defense. It's just how the offense is probably about me. What about you?
I think safety is a potential disaster. Like, I'm not buying that Derek Williams is an answer. Like, that's a guy that by the end of the last season, they saw him play in the Arkansas game, and they were like, he's good. He's done on defense. They didn't play him against A&M on defense. He got like 7 snaps against Georgia. Then he got 20 against Arkansas at safety. And then the next week he got none, and then he transferred, or he intended to transfer. But he got 20. It wasn't like he was hurt. He played 20 snaps on special teams that night against the Aggies. They just didn't play him on defense. Phil Sammy's not hurt or is not in there. He's hurt. Jonah Williams, I don't even know. They bring Derek Williams back, who was a sub-replacement player a year ago. He gets more time off that knee injury to get better. But you know, I think they brought him back because they didn't have a better option in the portal. Simple as that. Like, I don't think there's a commitment there to what he's actually shown on the field. I'm nervous about safety. And I think we're like 40% of the way through practice now. And I haven't heard any real like Derek Williams hyperbole behind the scenes. There's been a whole lot of not talking about that position for the most part, which I don't know what to make of it. I don't know what to make out of anything that's happened so far this spring because of the lineups that are involved. I'm worried about safety. I'm worried about depth at linebacker. That, you know, there's just a lot of dudes hurt, man. Like, I don't know that there's any one injury other than Trevor Goosby's that just has me overly concerned. But there's just so many of them. And I did think by now a guy would be back, right? That we wouldn't still be saying things like, hey, Emmett Mosley looks like he might be close to being back. Well, what does that mean? Aren't they all close to being back? Aren't they all in pads and doing something? Like, I need some of these guys, and there's a bunch of dudes with shoulders. It's just, I don't mean to be like an overreaction Monday nervous person. I don't. Because I am talking out of both sides of my mouth where it's like, well, look, when this team's completely healthy, and it's not, but in a world where this team gets whole, and let's hope they actually get there, there's a world out there that's not too hard to imagine existing where the parts are never completely together, that you get some guys back and that, you know, somebody other than Khalil Lockett goes out because those things happen, and that we have this idea of, man, they get this team together and in unison, they're going to be hell on wheels in December, January. Let's hope so. Let's hope that the storyline at the end of the year isn't going all the way back to the spring. All we've ever done is talk about getting all of these guys back. By the way, I did see the super chat. We will get to it in just a second. I wanted to put a ribbon and bow on this. I'm more optimistic than pessimistic, but as you've just outlined, we just can't ignore that there are some concerning non-optimal signs, and that if we don't talk about them now, we will criticize the hell out of each other if we're talking about them in September because they are 2-2 after losing to Ohio State and Tennessee, but they're the best 2-loss team in the country. You know, like, we just did that season. And I remember September. It wasn't that long ago. I remember what y'all were saying. There was a lot of people who thought this team won't win 5 games. That was an actual fairly shared opinion after the loss in Gainesville. And nobody was like, Catch, you guys were awesome in the spring. Just so y'all know, I don't hate y'all for it. It wasn't like that. Anwar, do you have an opinion on this? Super sidebar, $10. Barbs, $10. I'm going to let you completely stop the show with this. What are y'all's thoughts on the hack blogger from Chicago admitting not knowing George Iceman Gervin is, or this Caleb Williams trying to trademark the Iceman foolishness? Are you familiar with this story at all?
I'm not familiar, but my question would be, what is the age of the blogger?
He's like a beat guy on the Bears. So he's probably, I just assumed he's like in his late 20s or something like that.
Well, I mean, again, I don't know the story.
So let me catch you up real quick. Elevator version. In like the last 5 minutes, Caleb Williams and his people have decided that he's the Iceman. So he trademarked Iceman.
Okay.
George Gervin never trademarked it. In fact, it looked like somebody told him a couple of years ago he should, because something like this could happen. But George Gervin is old and his lawyer was sick, and they just never did it. So now Caleb Williams is trying to trademark the Iceman nickname. And people are like, well, you're not the first Iceman. There are other Icemans. And like, where do you get off calling yourself Iceman? There is a Chicago reporter, AKA hack blogger, who was like, hey, I'm not the biggest basketball fan in the world, but I've never even heard of George Gervin. How big can he be? Y'all need to get with Caleb Williams being the Iceman. And it's kind of turned into an early, we're not that far away from a culture war where it's just old people who are like, hey, y'all need to know about George Iceman Gervin, and young kids being like, I don't know, there's not much on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to do with this story other than if you're Caleb Williams, you need to pick different battles. Just pick different battles. Like, you're not good enough.
What even in the NFL has he done to even have the nickname of Iceman?
Well, you know what bothers me even more? So not only has he co-opted that, he had a couple of fourth quarter comebacks last year. Like, that was his thing. They came back and won games late. But not only, this is going to bring in the fact that you and I are wearing Liverpool and Arsenal gear today. And by the way, guys, I switched last minute because Anwar was like, I wore this so that we could be Premier League rivals in unison. I was like, I got you. I'll be right back. It's not that he's stealing the Iceman. Do you know what else he's stolen at the same time that when you add all it together actually has me kind of not liking Caleb Williams?
What's that?
He took Cole Palmer's celebration. So he's taken Cole, Cold, for those of you that don't follow soccer, he's Cole Palmer, but he's cold on a soccer pitch. So when he scores a goal, his celebration is to be cold. I saw Caleb Williams throw a touchdown pass at the end of the game, and he stole Cole Palmer's celebration while also stealing the Iceman nickname. What are we allowing for here? Now, look, in the year of sinners, if you're telling me that he's just taken some culture back that his culture has had stolen from him for ages, I will actually allow that. But outside of like some political protest, some like, I don't know what you would even call it, some protest over culture and history, like, you know what, I'm doing this for sinners, taking it back. It's out of pocket to just be taking nicknames and celebrations and acting like you made them.
I mean, now does Gervin just go, you know what, I'm going to trademark the Iceman and just say what the hell with it? Now I'm reading the story. It sounds like an unfortunate story on the Gervin side, because that's something you can't take for granted. Because if he didn't do it, Caleb didn't do it, any random kid could have done it. Any random person could have done it. It's kind of like if you don't renew Orange Bloods on GoDaddy or whatever it's called, like you're like, well, it's Orange Bloods. It's like, well, but you let it
Twitter,
go.
We have Orange Bloods, and at the end of it, like, we don't have Orange Blood. Somebody got that before we got it, and like, them's the breaks.
You remember when Herman did like he tried to do like an OnlyFans Orange Bloods combination. Remember, he was like Orange Fans or something like that. I forget what he said.
It was Orange Fans, I believe.
Orange Fans. And someone went out and grabbed that that website thing like within minutes, just because it could potentially take off, right? So that it's unfortunate. There'll be a culture war, but it doesn't matter what Caleb Williams does. Like he's still going to be the Iceman, but it does suck that there is some.
It'll suck if he's told he can't use Iceman without paying Caleb Williams. Like, that's ultimately what this comes down to, is that and it will come down to whether the way I was reading this, depending on the judge that they get, the judge could either go, I mean, this dude's been around for decades, called himself the Iceman. You're not the first Iceman. You don't get to own Iceman. Or a judge can say, that's his fault for not trademarking it earlier. Like, it really just comes down to like which judge do they get on this matter, and how will the judge, because there's not even, because Gervin, there have been other Icemans. There are other guys in sports. The Chuck Liddell was the Iceman. And like, these guys have been able to coexist together because nobody trademarked it. But I can't be mad that Caleb Williams has a lawyer or a representative that was looking out for him and was like, hey, This isn't trademarked. It's becoming a thing. This is what people are calling you. Like, we have to own it. But what you can't do, you can't put yourself into a position where it looks like you are bullying or canceling someone as beloved as George Gervin. That's the thing. You're fighting a ghost at this point, and it doesn't matter that he's a living ghost. George Gervin is just one of those names that, like, for sports fans, a large swath of them, he's the ABA, he's the finger roll. He has been such a great ambassador of sport. It's a little bit like picking a fight with an orphan. Just don't do it. Just, why would you want that PR battle? And if you're Caleb Williams and still trying to get good at this NFL thing, you haven't made it to a Super Bowl, like, you're about to start getting judged a lot more harshly than you've ever been judged in your life, especially if you're giving keep your head down, young man. Just keep your head down.
Yeah.
Work it out with George Gervin. There's got to be a way where you two guys can walk out of a room and go, I've trademarked it, but George gets a pass. Chuck Liddell gets a pass. Problem solved. Just I don't know why this guy's lawyer is not like, hey, you know what? This should have been worked out before it ever became a story that led Chicago hack bloggers to say things like, I'm not much of a basketball fan, but who's even ever heard of George Gervin?
I feel like he was in a commercial like just a few years ago like that. Hey, can I ask you one more about one other controversy, though?
Yes.
Texas women's basketball, Michigan, in this accidental placement of the Texas plate on the poster board, and then Kirk Bowles being in the middle of all of this. You saw this over the weekend?
No.
So apparently,
how did I miss this?
Yeah, it's it's crazy because a lot of times I zone out over the weekend and you're zoned in. Because like after I get my column done on Sunday and I'm on the board for a little bit, I'm like, yo, I got kids, man. I got to do something, right? So apparently, in one of the previous rounds, the Texas women's basketball team, you know, when you win, you go ahead and put your name on that poster board.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
Well, apparently they went up another notch than they were supposed to by accident. And so they basically went kind of bypassed Michigan on that by accident. And then apparently Michigan took that as an offense. Like, oh, that's some disrespectful stuff that the Texas women's basketball is doing. And then like Vic Schaefer, like Kirk tweeted something out and Vic Schaefer like responded to Kirk on there because now he was like defending his women. Then Rory Harmon was in a press conference and she was like, you know, I know people got to say things to get themselves pumped up for games. And I get it. Like that's what they want to do. But she was like trying to describe like it was so chaotic and someone just put it in the wrong place. But we weren't trying to be disrespectful. But that's what you want to do to get yourself pumped up for the game. So be it. It was crazy. And Kirk Bowles was in the middle of it because Kirk was writing about it and asking about it, but he tried to defend himself. It was, I saw it yesterday, and I was like, what in the hell is going on? Which means I'm really excited about this game tonight.
I mean, I'm not mad at you. Do what you got to do. If you're Michigan, you're the underdog in this game. Make up whatever wild ass, like, motivation that you need if it helps you. It's all silly. At the end of the day, Texas women's basketball, like, their season starts tonight. So, hey, Michigan, you do what you got to do, but the Texas women show up tonight, and it's their first game of this season that really matters. If they lose it, they're Duke basketball, right? It is. The Texas women have been to the Elite Eight 5 of the last 6 seasons, including this one. They've only been to one Final Four, and they haven't taken the step beyond that. So all year long, it's been about when they get to this moment, they have to win. And then when they get to the next moment beyond that, they have to win. And it's a little bit like Texas football. Anything less than that, having knocked on the door, This whole season is worthless. And it's hard to say something like that about a season, but like there's nothing more that could be added to this game that puts more pressure on Texas. So if I'm Texas, I'm looking at this like, hey, man, y'all don't even know what we're dealing with. Y'all's season has been made a success. Michigan basketball on the women's side is Elite Eight. That's a victory for them. They'll hang a banner for that. If Texas loses tonight, everything about this season will have been for naught. And so I hear this and I'm like, the Texas women have to go out tonight and play like they did the last time out. They look like a team that wasn't taking no mess from nobody. I would warn Michigan, I don't know that this is the team that you want to be trumping up some false charges against in the name of adding extra to it, because Texas slapped the taste out of Kentucky's mouth on Saturday. And, Michigan, I would say careful. You can blink and it can be a 2-point game into a 20-point game. And I'm not sure I don't know that it's true the other way around. So I got my popcorn ready. Let's play ball. I'm ready.
You're right. I love watching this team, by the way. I called myself. The two things happened last week. I called myself, okay, I'm going to sit down and watch this South Carolina game. It was like on a Tuesday or something. Like, let me watch South Carolina play. I'm curious what this potential opponent may look like. And after the first 5 to 6 minutes, I'm like, oh, Lord, what the hell is this? The difference between an elite team and just a good team in women's basketball is like, holy crap, that happened. So then over the weekend, I'm like, all right, time to watch some Texas women's basketball. Let me see what this game is going to look like. It's 2:00 start. I was like in the first quarter, I was like, I wonder what else I'm going to do today, man, because this thing is pretty much over. I hope it's the same again today.
By the way, Barbs10 says Chuck Liddell was Iceman in the MMA, as I said, but Nike never sold merch, posters, or ads with him like Gervin. Bowles be stirring up every day. Leave Kirk alone.
He does like to stir it up, though.
I mean, look, you don't make it this long by just being straight-laced and boring.
Yeah, but he likes the controversy. Like
I like the fact that he's meddlesome old man on the UT beat. You need one. No. One day, I want to be the meddlesome old man on the beat.
You want to ask guys like, hey, does this make you angry in order to get a quote?
I mean, no, but like I still want to be meddlesome. There are different ways to be meddlesome. Kirk picked his lane a long time ago. And like, it takes a special kind of man to be as hated by so many people as Kirk Bowles is, and to just be completely free and comfortable in it.
Unfazed. Now that part's impressive. To know that, hey, the majority of these people probably really don't like me. So anyway, I was thinking about going to Jersey Mike's for lunch.
I have a soft spot in my heart for Kirk because of it has never beaten him down, not one time. No. And he should teach a course on that because he's in social media and like people are worse to him on social media than they are to me. And like I've never seen Kirk ever once like stoop into the muck because somebody said something to him, and he's had people talking about him for 30 years plus. All right,
and Del Conte loves him. So if you're Kirk, you're like, well, your AD thinks I'm amazing, so why should I?
Well, because he had the glory job, and for decades, the columnist of the big paper was the job to have.
Yeah, Del Conte's older.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember the last time I picked up a hard copy newspaper.
Oh my God. I did this as a former newspaper guy. I feel like I don't know what city I traveled to catch. I don't know, it was like Kansas several years ago, or maybe it was Tech, and maybe Tech and Love. They had a newspaper, you would have and I was like, oh snap, it's a newspaper. Man. And I went and grabbed it. I was like, oh man, what's this on my hand? Like, what is this? This
You notice it right away now. You're like,
this
what is on my hands?
like, oh, I gotta wash my hands. And I'm just like kind of looking through it. And I was reading, I'm like, there's nothing really in here that's interesting. Then I was like, I actually don't want this. And I just didn't, I didn't touch it again.
It occurred to me the last time. Look, I can't even remember because what I do now when I travel is I just open up. If I prepare for the airplane wireless to not work, so I open up about 40 tabs before I leave, and I just surf the internet, picking stories that I want to read or emails or whatever. And then I get on the plane. If for whatever reason it's not working, I just one by one go through the stories that I've already opened up.
So I just download movies to Netflix. But can I tell you what the most annoying thing is? No, I know we're off the rails. The most annoying thing is that person who sits down to you and wants to try strike up a conversation. And I'm like, yo, I am not here for that. I am not here for that. Like when Southwest used to have open boarding, Catch, this is a true story. When Southwest used to have open boarding, I would intentionally put on a hoodie with sunglasses and have a blank face. Because I'm like, well, no one wants to sit next to this black guy, right? I know, and everybody would like look and just go by because I don't want the, hey, so where are you flying to today, huh? What's going on? Oh, really? Yo, yeah, I'm flying. I don't want to talk to you. But you know what inevitably would happen? There would be like this nice old lady who would go and sit next to me. And I would take the hoodie off and take the glasses off. And I would come out of my role. And I'm like, oh, do you need anything? Then I'll be so sweet to her. But anybody else who like strikes up the conversation when you sit down, I'm like, yo. Now I'm just like, yo, I'll put my stuff on. Like, hey, man, that's good. But hey, safe flight. I download.
You wore the stuff on the plane that you would never wear in your neighborhood.
Oh, yes, 100. I had hoodie on like this, and I would just sit there like this. Like, no one of you actually heard me speak. You're like, it's like those British actors who fake the hood accent, right? Like Idris Elba in The Wire. Like you remember the first time you realized that Idris Elba was not from the hood? You're like, wait, what the hell is this? And
I assume everybody's a British actor now because of that. And if they're American later, I'm like, oh, I just assumed you were, yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah,
wow, you and I wear our British soccer team jerseys. All right, guys, one more time, go to rogueshop.com. Richard and Shar taking great care of everybody on the burnt orange side of things. They love Texas football. They love taking care of people. The product is first rate. Their presentation is divine. Look, just go to the website, rogueshop.com. Use that promo code OrangeBloods for Texas Home for legal CBD, THC, and so much more. Let the product and what they do the talking. But if you want something that's Longhorn owned through and through, that bleeds it like you do, trust me, it's Rogue Shop. I was getting the questions from Richard last weekend. Like, the man loves his UT football. He loves recruiting. And he was looking forward to taking care of you. For myself and Anwar Richardson, have a great rest of your Monday. We'll see you later on today and this week. Football practice back in full swing. Will we see Arch tomorrow?